There is an old a series, novel series, and it was called Tinker, Tailor, Sailor, Spy, and made into movies and television shows repeatedly over a number of years. My following guest is farmer, rancher, equestrian, and now legislator Christy Zito, joining us in studio, and she made the long hike in this morning from all the way up in the Glens Ferry Mountain Home area. Specifically, I've never asked you about that. Which one of those is your actual hometown?
Well, good morning, Bill Colley, and I actually live in Hammett, which is between Glenns Ferry and
Which
Mountain
is
Home.
home to now two new state legislators.
Yes.
But people talk about how this works, and it hasn't maybe come up a lot, but you have two women now representing that district, which didn't happen obviously too often in Idaho. But it does show you that for all these people who think we're backward in this part of the country, that we're maybe a lot more enlightened than they give us credit for.
Oh, I think we're very enlightened in Idaho. I would have to go to bat for our state in that direction, yes.
It has been an interesting last year for you. I saw the pictures from AJ's online where you thanked everybody who'd been involved with the campaign, and there was a get together the other day. That must have been the first moment where you could really exhale, I guess, after this, and take a few moments and just be yourself and relax.
Well, it was not my party. I was invited to the event at AJ's. It was put on by Mike
Really?
Hollingshed, yes.
Okay.
But it was an opportunity to thank those who supported the campaign and those who worked hard on it. When we decided to run, the first person I spoke with was my daughter and spoke to her because she's 18 years old and she's my only child left at home. And then I needed a campaign treasurer. And so I went and I spoke to Bunny, and the first thing she said to me is, "Have you prayed about this?" And so then we had a long discussion, and it was like a rigorous interview from her about whether to run and what to do and how to handle the campaign. And so until the primaries were over, Mike Hollingshed helped us a lot with the campaign, and Bunny and Elizabeth and I made a lot of the decisions, on what to do and how to handle the campaign.
I have to say, that the Republican Party itself wasn't sure what to make of you because now a lot of people think that you're going to be just like a mirror image of Heather Scott, or they think that that you're going to be out there bringing the Bundys over to lead demonstrations in the middle of the district. I've heard all sorts of things from a lot of people out there because I think for the most part nobody knew who you were in the party until all of a sudden you'd won the primary. What kind of a Republican are you? I guess that's a question that still hasn't been answered by a lot of people around the state who don't know you.
Well, in my mind, I'm the best kind of Republican. I am a citizen legislator. I have people come up to me and they say to me, "Oh, I've just hugged a politician or I've just shaken the hand of a politician." And I will say to them, "No, you have not. You have shaken the hand of a citizen legislator. I am nothing more than the everyday person on the street who has chosen to serve those people in my district and to represent their voice in Boise." So that's why I see myself as what I said, the best kind of Republican. I don't see myself as too far right. I don't see myself as too far left. What's important to me is that the people in our district can thrive, that our businesses can get ahead, that our children will have a good education, that we won't have federal overreach in our lives. Those are the things that are important to me, that our rights are preserved in accordance with the Constitution. And those are the things that we ran on, and we were successful because of that.
When we were at the Twin Falls County Fair, and I had a chance to talk to a great many of you at the time, Megan, who's going to be your counterpart in the district, she was pointing out that you need economic development sorely because she pointed out, for instance, her own experience. They don't have good internet access out at her family's ranch, farm, whatever you prefer. But these are types of things that she feels are critical to giving people there, I guess, an opportunity. Maybe it's a fair shot at getting a piece of the economic pie around the state. Is that going to be important to you too as well?
Well, I do think it's important that people in rural areas have the same opportunities. That being said, I tend to lean in the direction that it's not the government's job to provide a lot of these things. We moved to Hammett. We knew that there would be these challenges with internet and such, but my daughter's done homeschool. And she does her homeschool online, and we've had a few challenges with connectivity and stuff like that, but it can all be worked through. So when you choose the rural lifestyle, you are definitely making choices whether you're going to be 15 minutes from the mall or whether you're going to be an hour from the mall. When we need a gallon of milk, we can drive 10 miles to Glens Ferry or 15 miles to Mountain Home. Or we're blessed that we do have Frank up on the corner who carries a few sundries like that. But those are choices you make when you choose to live rural.
When you mentioned you don't see a place for a lot of government involvement in some of these issues, I think that there's no doubt that you're bringing a conservative message to all of this. But I also I've been able to follow your Facebook posts and the like, and a lot of people out there are nervous about what happened over at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge. And yet I know from my own callers to the program, they overwhelmingly believe in the cause, if nothing else. You have some issues when it comes to land use and the number of acres and just square miles that the federal government actually owns here in the Mountain West.
Well, I do have concerns with that. Over 60% of the land in the state of Idaho is under federal management right now. Now, what that does is, those are lands that are rich in resources. We have timber, we have mine, we have grazing. There are a lot of resources there that would be available to our state. So let me set the example like this. So I don't know how much money you make every month, but just to make the numbers easy, let's say you made $1,000 a month. So you are going to give $600 of that $1,000 a month to me, and I am going to manage it for you, and you get the other $400. Now, with 60% plus of the land in our state tied up with the resources that are available there, our state is out that 60%. We watch it burn up in wildfires. We watch our ranchers not be able to manage the lands as they know best, not as they see fit, but as they know best. I was in Owyhee County because that's part of our district as well. This summer, I have made some very, very good friends up there, and I love Owyhee County. I love all the people in all of the district. It's been amazing. But I went and looked at some prescribed burns, and it was amazing because one side of the road had been prescribed burn and the other side of the road had not. Well, the trees and stuff that have just overgrown the area will use 35 to 40 gallons of water a day. There were little creeks and reservoirs that had water in it that had not had water in them for years and years and years because the overgrowth of trees have taken it. There was new plant life, there was grass. The vegetation was still green on the prescribed burn side, on the other side it wasn't. I saw cattle that were hungry but had not been able to be moved to new range because the BLM had said that they couldn't move those cattle into new range at the time. Those ranchers don't want to abuse the land. That's how they make their living. For generations, that's how they've made their living. They don't
Don't
want to
worry,
abuse
don't
it.
worry. Chico's phone did it earlier too.
Oh, I apologize for that. So I'm hard pressed to understand how, you know, management of these lands would be best served closer to the people. I take issue with the fact that when we hear that, well, how can the state manage it? They won't know what to do. They won't have the resources. Well, first, we'll have the finances because we'll have the resources off the land. And second, these people that have lived here for generations, they settled this country. They came into these lands that were nothing. When they settled the Salt Lake Valley, for example,
Mhm.
and Brigham Young went there, someone told him that they would give him a bushel of gold for the first bushel of wheat that was produced there because it was such desolate country. So I find it almost insulting for the people of the state, for those on the East Coast to tell us that we can't manage the lands.
Brigham Young, by the way, a native of Port Byron, New York, if I could drop that in.
Oh, absolutely.
I used to live just a few miles away. We want to point out Christy Zito is our guest in the studio this half hour. It's 9:15, and we have 41. You're listening to Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. A telephone number 7360300. Christy, if you can grab a headset. I believe we have a caller with us. And, of course, caller, you're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I heard her say that she wanted to eliminate some of the government overreach. One of the problems that I've had recently was I tried to build a storage shed out on my property, and I got a cease and desist order because I wasn't doing it according to what they wanted me to. Here in Twin Falls, I bought in the country, but the city's moved out towards me, and I'm actually in the impact area now. Anyway, when I went to the building uh, board, they said that they work under the United Nations orders, and that I have to secure that down to the ground at 115 miles per
Well,
hour
you just said the key there.
safety.
Let's get Christie's reaction to that. United Nations, apparently it's an Agenda 21 type of thing. Is that what we're looking at that we're dealing with?
That's the way I understand it. Now, I was not aware that that had actually passed yet. I did some reading on it last night. But that being said, that doesn't mean I know everything, and I'm always open to being corrected. I do have issue with United Nations rules and regulations being put upon the people of the United States. We are a sovereign country, and I don't believe that it is appropriate for us to have to operate under those guidelines.
I want to thank the caller for that because that brings up a point. There may occasionally be an idea, a proposal that comes out of the UN that may not be harebrained. But the fact of the matter is, we still have sovereignty, and I guess the point is you don't necessarily have to follow what they're recommending.
Well, the way I understand it, we don't have to follow what they recommend unless our Congress adopts it through a trade policy or something like that. Um, if they're good ideas and we adopt them as a country and then we adopt them as a state, that's fine. But for another entity, a world entity or another country or whatever, to come into our country and push their ideas and values off on us, no, I'm not in favor of that at all.
We've got about a minute before the next break. I'm going to allow a caller to get a question in. If we don't get time before the break, you'll come back and answer it on the other side of the break. Caller, you're on the air with Christy Zito on KLIX. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I just appreciate her effort and what she's standing for. And my thoughts kind of pertain to the last caller about the building department in Twin Falls and Twin Falls County. They're out of control as far as the regulations and what they require of a citizen here, unless you're Chobani or unless you're wanting to build a mosque downtown Twin Falls. They make you jump through so many hoops. It's a racket. All they want is the money. There's no checks and balances. They can pretty much do what they want and hamstring builders because if they don't go along, they put a halt to the project.
We've got to let you go on that, but we'll get Christie's input afterward on all of this because I guess the question is, can state government have some sort of impact on what's being done with local governments? I mean, is there a way to work this out? We have a short break ahead. Christy Zito is in studio with us. She is on her way to Boise to serve in the state legislature as a state representative. Your district number is 23, isn't it?
Yes, 23.
And you're 23A.
Mm-hmm.
Megan is 23B.
Yes.
A lot for me to figure out here to keep track of.
You're doing good.
We've got more in just a couple of minutes. It's 42. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Our studio guest is answering some questions from some of our callers this morning. Christy Zito is on her way. She'll be a first-term legislator in January, serving in the 23rd District, which encompasses, as she mentioned, Hawaii County, a good portion of Elmore County, portions of Twin Falls County, and I may have left out a couple there too as well, right?
No, it's Owyhee, Twin Falls, and Elmore County.
And Owyhee is just physically massive. I went out to Bruno Canyon over the summer, and then I drove back through the desert, and you see nothing for miles and miles and miles. Maybe I think I spotted one truck from the BLM, the guy was doing some work and paperwork in his truck when I passed him. But you have a big landmass, but to go address people's concerns out there, you have to spend, I think, sometimes the better part of a day to do it, right?
Well, you do. If you're going to go to Homedale or Marsing or whatever, it's a day trip if you're going to do justice to it. So, but that's okay because that's the beauty of, for me, what this job is I have got to meet so many people and to listen to their concerns and hear the things that impact their lives and how it impacts their lives is just humbling to say the least.
You're listening, of course, to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley with you as well. And telephone number, if you'd like to reach our guest, 7360300. Caller just before the break referenced how he feels they fast-track certain projects in the community, but drag their feet. Maybe it's not a foot dragging, but it doesn't happen as fast for other building projects. Now, I don't know that the state has any control over what a local municipality or city is going to be doing in these situations. And I guess I these building projects happened before I was here. Uh, is that something though that from your perspective a state legislator has any impact on?
Well, I'm with you. I'm not 100% sure what kind of control a state legislature would have on these local issues. My thing with the local issues is this. If enough people get together and enough people put political pressure on your local elected officials, that's the way this system is supposed to work. Now, we saw it last year with the Second Amendment Alliance and the political pressure that they applied. They had a huge direct impact on a lot of the elections around the state in the primary and the general election. So, my advice to people on a local level would be if things are happening that make you unhappy and enough of your neighbors are unhappy about it, you need to be involved. Our government was set up as a republic. And as a republic, it requires input from the citizenry to work and be effective. Because if you don't, and you just sit around the table at the coffee shop and you say, well, by darn, I don't think it's right that old so and so did this, or that P&Z does this, or the county commissioners let this happen, but you never go to a county commissioner meeting or you never go to a planning and zoning meeting, you should just drink your coffee. If you have an issue and you have a complaint, and there are enough of you, then you coalesce together and you apply political pressure to those who are doing the things that you don't approve of.
736-0300, the number to reach our program today. And of course, Christy Zito is in studio with us, and she's taking some telephone calls too from people who have a question or a point they'd like to make about maybe local government, but actually state government, which is going to be your main concentration now. In referencing that, we should point out too that these people have brought to bear some political pressure, changed our gun laws in the state of Idaho. And there were people probably who thought 10 years ago some of these things would never happen when it came to concealed and open permitless carry, now that we can do both. And yet here we go. I should also point out, too, that there have been no mass shootings across the state, despite
No
what
blood in the street.
the critics brought this up, and it doesn't seem it's a status quo. As a policeman told me one time, he said, I assume everybody in Idaho is carrying, and we just do our jobs that way. The culture here obviously is unique, and you've lived a few places around the country.
Well, I grew up in Utah and I lived there for 42 years before I came to Idaho.
And so you're familiar with the fact, though, that culture, going back to what we talked about, federal control of lands and the like, we have a different culture here. I mean, I obviously see that coming from, I came from an Appalachian region originally where I grew up, and then I've lived on the East Coast, and I've lived in the mountains of Vermont. Coming here, I mean, even Bernie Sanders said it when he would not, deny the Second Amendment because coming from Vermont, he knew that it's an entirely different culture than, let's say, what a lot of the coastal liberals believe in.
Well, Bill, I think that maybe this last presidential election had a tendency to show that maybe our country's not so different from coast to coast as we think, that maybe we have pockets of liberalism, and maybe because they make the most noise all of the time, they're the ones who get the attention.
Right.
But I really believe that the mandate of this last election showed that we still have farmers and we have steel workers and we have miners and we have construction workers and people who get their hands physically dirty every day, who want their constitutional rights and who are willing to defend them and get out and be proactive and vote for them and take advantage of the process.
We've got to wrap things up during this segment, but we hope to see you again.
Oh, at any time, absolutely.
Once you're actually in office, I'm sure you're going to have a lot to talk about.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
The daily frustrations
And I'm
of being a
so glad I
legislator.
finally got to meet you in person. We've known each other for almost 10 years now. And
I was sitting at the state convention in June in Nampa, and Steve Millington's wife walked over and said, "Hey, I need to introduce you to somebody." And of course,
I know. And I said, I know him already. We've known each other for a long time. So it's been good, Bill. Glad to have you in Idaho. Small world.
9:30. Hey, we've got lots coming up. I'm going to call it 42, on our way into the mid 60s before the day is over.